So after the debate, Bernie Sanders hit back at the corrupt DNC for effectively packing the audience.
Tell me about the moment that we saw where it seemed like you were almost arguing with the crowd or debating with the crowd at one point. What was that about?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Do you know how much money it costs to get a ticket down below?
How much?
I read that it costs $1,750. So to get a ticket to the debate, you have to be fairly wealthy. Most working people that I know don't spend $1,700 to get a ticket to a debate, and that's problematic. But, people, that's what the DNC did. But at the end of the day, I felt very good about the debate because I think, my opponents raised a whole lot of issues, and I think we were able to fight back effectively. I'm still standing, and I'm looking forward to the South Carolina primary on Saturday and Super Tuesday on Tuesday.
This is literally the same trick that the RNC used against Trump. And by the way, they used it at the same time. How crazy is that? So, I guess we sort of lucked out that the debates up to this point were not really done the same way. But in 2016, the South Carolina debate, every time Trump said anything, he got boos. And he stops at one point in the debate. He points at the audience. He's in a back and forth with Jeb. He stops. He points at the audience, and he goes, "See all these people out here? All these people booing? They're all Jeb's lobbyists and special interests. That's who it is." And by the way, Trump went on to win that debate. And so now we're in South Carolina. It's the DNC. Exact same situation. It costs about $2,000 to get a ticket to get in, and Bernie keeps getting booed. And by the way, Bloomberg keeps getting cheers. You trying to tell me that's organic Bloomberg support, bro? Come on, son. Come on, dog. There's no organic Bloomberg support. It's all bought. It's all bought. So the parallels are striking. They did the same thing to Trump. Bernie did it. Now, Bernie didn't. There was one point where Bernie pointed at the audience, and I thought he was going to say, because he was like, pointing at him like that, like, oh, look at this. And I thought he was going to say a similar thing that Trump said, like, this is all, these tickets cost $2,000 or whatever. Or, look, the lobbyists and special interests. I thought he'd say that. He didn't. But there was another point where he did sort of stand up aggressively to the audience a little bit. And where he stood up aggressively, the issue was Cuba, and all the other candidates were piling on him. And he was basically like, Obama said the same thing I said. And the audience boos, and he's like, really? Really? That's just a fact. So, thankfully, a similar thing happened with the Trump debate. Trump ended up winning that debate, and the snap polls that we got immediately after the South Carolina debate showed that Bernie won. Now, it wasn't a crushing victory, to be clear. He had 45% to Biden's 43 or 42%. So it wasn't a crushing victory, but it was a victory. And I tend to agree with that breakdown, that, Bernie did not have anywhere near his best performance, but it was sufficient given that he's a giant frontrunner. And he said, I'm looking forward to South Carolina and Super Tuesday coming up. Yeah, so I got to be honest with you guys. The polls right now in South Carolina don't look great. They just don't. So there was a brief moment, maybe about 2 weeks ago, where the polls showed Bernie was basically neck and neck with Biden. They were tied in some polls. But Biden had a giant lead leading up to 2 weeks ago, and then Bernie kind of closed that gap. And then a round of polls just came out today, and it shows Biden back up big time in South Carolina. I'm talking 15, 20 points up. So, even if that's soft support, he could still have a freaking 5-point, 10-point victory, There's the whole conversation that we always have to have about, okay, but are the polls skewed to older voters? Are they not counting the people who make up the Bernie coalition effectively, which is young people and non-voters who are now becoming voters and whatever? That's all a fair, legit conversation to have. But the snapshot of the race, as I talk to you right now, is Bernie will lose South Carolina. But then on Super Tuesday, he's supposed to really pile on the wins. So the South Carolina voting is Saturday, and then Tuesday, immediately after, 2 days after, boom, Tuesday is the Super Tuesday states, and whatever bump Biden gets is not going to be enough because he doesn't have organizations in the Super Tuesday states, and he hasn't stepped foot in them since last month. And Bernie's been campaigning all over the place. So, even if Bernie loses handily in South Carolina, that's actually not necessarily a reflection of what's going to happen upcoming on Super Tuesday. So we'll see. And if you're really upset by that, just understand that, like, let's say hypothetically Bernie loses South Carolina, and let's say he loses by a decent margin. Guys, Trump only won 41 contests. Now that's a lot, but Ted Cruz won 11 contests. Marco Rubio won 3, and Kasich won 1. So that's 15 contests he didn't win. Now, the reason why that adds up to more than 50, by the way, is because you have to include U.S. territories and stuff. So just so everybody knows why the math is the way it is there, it's over 50. But yeah, him losing 15 contests, and he still went on to win by a pretty sizable margin. So Bernie's won every one so far. So if he happens to lose South Carolina, it's not the end of the world. Although it still is going to suck. It's still going to suck. It's still going to be like, come on. So anyway, we'll see. But I like how Bernie is fighting back against the fact that the debate was effectively rigged. The audience was rigged. And that's why virtually every time he opened his mouth, they did not react positively.